You're looking at.
Yeah, no, we'll pin this camera here.
So, which one is you?
Just close this. Scroll down. Okay. Okay, could you, so
We just need to.
What am I?
Once, yes.
theater and production, okay.
Well, that's the.
Promote
Yeah,
to
promote,
panelists.
yeah.
Okay.
And then. Okay. So now you are the panelist, and I will make you the co-host.
Yeah.
I want to make protection co-host. Okay, so now
So this is what they see, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now you are the. You got my, but just the
You
camera.
want to okay.
Zoom in. Yeah.
Zoom a bit more in. You want me to do it? You want to
yes.
check in here? You tell me how much you want.
Okay. Up. And come here. To the right, maybe. Yes.
Okay.
And closer. Maybe. Yeah. Actually, it should be.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, hold on. Check it. Sorry, check it.
Yes. And up a little bit. Up. Yes. Up. Yes. And zoom in a little bit, maybe closer. Little. Yeah. Yeah. And then maybe right a little bit.
It's okay.
Yes. Could you please right a little bit more because the host, I think she will be standing on the right.
Ah, you want me to turn it towards there? Yeah,
Yes.
towards the.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think that looks a bit. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yes. And later after Susan, I can just tune a little bit to make it center.
Just make sure you don't disconnect the cable.
Oh, okay.
It's very fragile. It can go
think
completely
which one?
off. Yeah, there is this one and there is the power at the back.
Oh, okay.
You need to just touch this one here, from here. So I'll leave it a bit loose. I think, Susan, we can tell her to go next to them a bit. Or if you want, we can zoom it a bit in.
Oh, yes, good point. So you can zoom out a little bit and put the chairs, the tables in the center. So
But then we're gonna see, is that okay?
yes,
Maybe we can do
something like
this.
this. Yeah.
We can do this. Look.
Yeah.
A bit we can.
Okay, I think we can put the table in to the center so that I do not have I only need to zoom in at that time. I don't need to touch the cables. If we put the table to the center of the screen.
You mean you want to move the tables
Yes, put the table right in the center.
of the screen? Okay. Okay, need to be in the center. I don't know.
Have a zoom in.
Okay. Zoom in, but you're not sure it's not here. It's a bit this one. No, I think that is the.
Yes, that's the zoom because that's That's how.
Okay, I do it from here. There is the zoom in and out here. There is a button here. If you touch it with your finger here,
Okay.
if you step on this chair, okay,
This is,
okay, just
and look now.
okay, just I'll leave you to handle this, but just in case, just be fragile. If it can, yeah, I think we are ready now, isn't it?
Yeah, almost.
I think it's a bit.
Does it look better now?
Yeah, it looks better. It's just when, yeah. Perfect. No, okay. We only have one head. No, zoom in. If you want to hide the. Perfect. Okay. And we don't have anyone visible. We don't have any attendees visible. So it's good. I think it's good.
Yes, it looks.
Okay. So the microphones, do you want me to power them on when they come, the panelists? They just need to power on and they go,
I think when
they come out.
they come,
Down.
when they are ready to go to the pole.
Yeah. Yeah, because the microphones are muted, so they can't hear us. The picture is good.
Yes, it's pretty good.
Hello, hello.
You hear?
Yes.
Good, bad?
Can you hear? Hello? Yep. Okay, well, hello. Welcome, everyone, to the Royal Ballet School and tonight's LBC in Conversation. There's a large crowd here at the Royal Ballet School and a large crowd watching on Zoom from home. So it's delightful to have everyone here for tonight's talk. And if this is the first time you've joined us, we're so pleased you're here and we hope it won't be the last. Tonight, we're excited to welcome Steven McRae. I don't think he really needs a lot of introduction because, I mean, we do know him from stage, screen. He's a remarkable dancer and he's an even more remarkable person, the determination and the drive to come back from not one, but two incredibly difficult injuries. So tonight we're going to hear from Steven about his career and about everything. If you want to ask questions, you're welcome to. You'll get the opportunity. And those of you who are watching online, if you would type your questions into the chat box, then we can deal with those as well. And please welcome Gerald Dowler, who's going to do the interview tonight. So enjoy yourselves, gentlemen.
Good evening to everyone here and also online. I was delighted to be invited to interview you today, Steven. Given that I'm of an age where I remember your very first performances, and I do have some stories to tell, but I probably won't get a word in edgeways. So there will be an opportunity to ask some questions. Every so often, we'll take a little break and we'll hear from you. So please don't hesitate when I ask for some questions. But let's start off, let's do it slightly back to front. And just very recently, we've had the screening of the film that you've made about you and your journey back to fitness from an extremely serious injury. What was the motivation for making that film?
Yeah, where do you even begin with that?
Sorry.
So when, those of you who don't know, my Achilles snapped on the Opera House stage in the middle of a Manon performance. Snapping was a surprise, it was a shock. I'd had a lot of pain in my Achilles for a good year before that. So you'd probably say, well, you probably thought it was going to happen. The scientists, the surgeons, they usually say if you're struggling with that kind of pain or injury, your chances are like 5% of it snapping. So when it snapped, my surgeon congratulated me and said, well done, you're part of the 5% crowd. So anyway, back to the film. When it happened, I was obviously devastated and in shock. And as I've learned working with psychologists, it was a trauma. It was a traumatic experience, not just for me, but for my colleagues and some of the audience members as well. So I was very much aware that we're in a fortunate position across the road. We have an incredible healthcare department, the Mason Suite. And I actually thought this is an opportunity to showcase what I believe every dancer should have access to. And so I'd already been in touch with the film director prior to my Achilles snapping. I'd met him via Paul Smith, the fashion designer. I was at an event. I'd done a little bit of work with Paul, and he was being filmed by this gentleman, but it was so discreet. And anyway, as it turns out, Paul had suggested to Stefan, the filmmaker, that he should contact me. But this was 10, 12 years ago. So we started to discuss some ideas. I've always loved talking about dance, putting it out there, getting people that know nothing about dance to get involved with it. But I wasn't interested in just creating the typical dance film that just reinforces every cliche that I don't want the audience to just constantly assume. So we were talking about multiple different things that I was passionate about, that I wanted to talk about. But I had not really set on something that I wanted to embark on. And then, of course, when it snapped, he called me the next day and said, "This is great. We have our story." So anyway, yeah, we embarked on it that way. It was, if you're making a film, obviously, about yourself, it's very difficult because you don't want it to just be a vanity project. Obviously, it's not, because I'm in the most vulnerable phase that I ever could have been in. And when you're making a film like that, particularly a documentary film, if you do it genuine as a real documentary, where it's not staged, the reality is you don't know how the ending is going to turn out.
No.
And so to tell the producers, look, I have every intention of fighting to get back on stage, but there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
This procedure, particularly where my Achilles snapped and how it snapped and the period of time it had been degenerating, the chances were really low of me getting back on stage. And as much as everybody tried to put on the brave face, you can smell the fear and the doubt.
Yeah.
And I was hyper aware of that. So I had to say to the production company, there is a chance that this won't be the ending you want. And they were incredible, because they said, but then that's your story, and we navigate how you deal with that. Which I thought was quite empowering. So it was fascinating for me because it ended up being a little bit like a diary.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody who does keep a regular diary. I randomly write things down. It's not a regular daily event. So I have odd bits of paper or notes on my phone that I've just wanted to write something for some reason. But I found it very cathartic, actually.
But I mean, embedding what you said was my next question, because embarking on a project where you have no idea how it's going to pan out ultimately, and whether it will pan out in success or not, was that psychologically difficult? But presumably you're also dealing with far more important psychological challenges in order to get yourself back mentally as well.
The filming, I actually found it a bit of a safe space.
Oh.
Because I don't know if any of you have seen it, there are parts in the film where I'm just sat and I'm not speaking. It's just silence. And sometimes the director was filming me for sometimes like half an hour. I didn't say a word. Sometimes I didn't even move. Or sometimes it would be the opposite, and I would just, and all this stuff would come out. He had over 300 hours of footage to make into a 90-minute film. Yeah. So he could have made about 15 different films. Anyone who works in film or anything will understand what a nightmare that is. So yeah, I liked having the camera there in an odd way. It was like having a psychologist that was happy to just let you speak. You know, some psychologists don't. They want to get it out of you, and others don't say anything for the whole hour. You pay them and leave, and think, hang on, I did your job for you there. But yeah,
it's that this injury from which you have recovered, and the slow journey back, was not the first. Was there a feeling of here we go again?
Well, the Achilles snapping was the first big injury.
First big.
I mean, when I was really young in the company, you know, I was very fortunate. I got to do Romeo very, very young. And, you know, at the time I was so impatient and probably highly annoying. But I look back now and realize, wow, I was so lucky to do so much amazing repertoire at such a young age and given the opportunity to make all those mistakes and not be instantly erased because you didn't get it right. And that's the beauty of doing it young. But of course, my body in many ways also wasn't ready for some of it, because how can anyone prepare for that? Going from a small little school in Sydney where I hadn't even seen a ballet before, and then rocking up to the best company in the world and getting to do the iconic work. So, you know, it was, and it's not just the repertoire that my body stopped. You know, I was living away from home.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize just how crippling homesickness can be for your health, physically and mentally. And looking back, obviously, is so easy. And I go, oh yeah, okay, it was clear to me that I wasn't as well as I should be.
Yeah.
But anyway, during those early years, my other Achilles on the other side was not happy. And I was forced to take almost a whole year off. And that was terrifying because I was only 20 or something at the time, very young. And of course, hungry, like, no, I have to do everything. I have to do everything yesterday. And I was very fortunate that the surgeon at the time, he didn't want to operate, but he said, you will do every single thing that I say if you want to dance again. And I did. I was like Mother Teresa. You know, I had all these protocols I had to follow. And I'm actually so glad I had that injury, because it then really introduced me to Leslie Collier, who coached me back from the injury and became my coach. I've worked with her my entire career on every role you could ever imagine. And I'm so fortunate for that. It was, I mean, I miss her so much because she's not working with us full time. But I am so grateful that that came about through that process. And just the personal development. I had to grow up very quickly. It's very difficult when you know, obviously there was no apprenticeship program at the time. So I was 18 years old in the company. Boom, off you go. And yes, you're on the other side of the world. You do grow up quickly. You know, I arrived here age 17. You have to go open a bank account yourself and do all the things that you never imagined that you would have to do. You do grow up quickly in many ways, but you don't in others. And the injury forced me to, okay, hang on, what's the bigger picture here? Who am I outside of that building? Who am I away from dancing? And many dancers probably don't have that conversation with themselves until much later in their careers. And I was forced to do that at a young age when you don't want to be thinking of who are you away from doing that, or what if I can't do this? And that's when I then went and started to bug Monica and Kevin O'Hare, who at the time was company manager, about doing studies and things like this. So that's when I started a business degree and all this sort of stuff. But I was just so terrified that this thing I loved was so easily, or could so easily be taken away from me.
Yeah. Yes. Or to start to lay down some insurance. In terms of you coming here, you said 18, you're here, you're there. And just outside, we had a little pre-interview chat saying, well, you were here almost at the opening of this building. What was it like? You won the Prix de Lausanne, and then you were here. Perhaps, could you explain that process, because it was very rapid from what you said?
Oh yeah, it was was kind of crazy, actually. My family have been so supportive of my passion my whole life. But where I grew up, there was no way they could fund a flight to the Prix de Lausanne, let alone come and join a school like this. So I was fortunate that, and this is pure timing, it's the three-legged stool. You've got to have the hard work, the talent, and the luck. And it's a perfect example of this. The year before, so 2002, I had done all my RAD exams, done my solo seal, and at the time, the Genet competition, which is now the Fontaine, was held for the first time outside of the UK. It was held in Sydney. I'm living in Sydney. So I could attend that because all I had to do was get the train to Sydney. And I won the gold medal, which the prize money paid for my flight to Lausanne, which was the month after. So I won it in the December. I went to Lausanne end of January. At the time, it was a different setup. So you were there for 10 days. My mum managed to come with me because we could afford it now because of my flight. She'd never been to Europe. I'd obviously never been to Europe. We had no idea what we were doing. Lausanne is closer to Geneva, but we didn't know that. We flew into Zurich and got the 3.5-hour train to Lausanne. It was obviously snowing. So I remember stopping in the middle of a ballet class and just staring outside because that was beautiful to me. I'd never experienced that. I had no idea what was going on because the competition at the time definitely was all spoken in French. Mm-hmm. So I would stand side stage and then you hear your name. Okay, go, go, go. I was so out of any comfort zone. My mum, unfortunately, got very ill in Lausanne. The pressure of knowing that if I didn't succeed and win a scholarship, there was nothing she could do. So she actually had to go to hospital and have some attention, blood pressure and all this. So she didn't see me perform in the semi-final. And then the next day I did the final and I won. I got first place. And Galen Stock, who was director of the school at the time, was head of the panel. And Kevin O'Hare was on the panel, which is a nice story there. And she knew the situation, so she said, well, come and join the school. Don't waste money flying back and waiting for the scholarship to kick in September. Tomorrow, she said, are you flying via London back home? Yes. She said, just get off in London. So I did. My mom, of course, like, what the hell is going on? Because we were not prepared for that. So she was able to change her flight for a day later. We stayed in a hotel for one night, because that's all we could do in Earl's Court. The school had no accommodation. The Wolf House, which was in Barron's Court at the time, was full. And all the kids at that time rented apartments, flats. So I was put in a hostel in Hampstead with strangers. Said goodbye to mom. Was told, go open a bank account. Where I went to Lloyd's, which was in the Piazza at the time. I had no idea what I was doing.
Age 17.
And I just turned 17 at the end of the December. And this is all before phones and things. Yeah. So I couldn't just FaceTime people and get the fix that I needed. So anyway, I flew Monday back to London. We found a hotel. Came straight into the school. And they said, oh, the company are rehearsing Sleeping Beauty. It was Makarova's production at the time. And your year, I was put into second year, working with the company. So you're going to do class, and then you're going to go straight across the road. This is the day after the Prix de Lausanne. And you're going to go and work with the company. So I went into the Devour studio and sat next to who's now my wife, Elizabeth Harrod, and just sat there like, what the hell is going on? And of course, everybody suddenly got really excited because they all went, oh, Darcy's just walked in. She's going to do the Rose Adage. It's Darcy, it's Darcy. So I went, I've heard of this Darcy. I've heard of Darcy, but can you tell me what the rose adage is? And obviously all the school students growing up through White Lodge just looked at me like, what is this alien? Like, what do you mean you don't know what the rose adage is? I didn't know what it was. I loved to dance, and my teachers were great at showing me videos of Anthony doing Swan Lake or this or that, and I learned a lot of Sylphid and things like this. But there was a limit to how much my teacher could give me. She was trying to give me the foundations of the technique and everything. So anyway, yeah, I watched the Rose Adage and went, okay, yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, wow, okay. And so I held a tray of cups in Act 2, Hunt Scene.
Oh.
And I loved it. You know, within, I think it must have only been a week or two after that, I was stood on the stage holding this tray of cups. The one, I've gone off a bit here, but the one video.
Please go off as much as you want.
The one video of something I did watch, and this was thanks to my dad. He was always just recording odd things that he thought I would want to watch on TV. Bearing in mind, I come from a motorsport family, so he and I would just sit and watch, you know, Formula One, or he was a drag racer, so I was always at the racetrack. But he knew I loved dance, and he loved coming and watching me all the time. But there was a video, a program on TV late at night, and it was a gala performance from the Royal Opera House, and it was opera and ballet, and it must have been maybe the closing gala or opening gala. I can't remember, one of them. Darcy Bustle was on it. That's how I knew her. But I'm saying this because there was a video of Act 3 Manon. It was Sylvie Guillaume and Jonathan Cope. And I was about 14 when I saw this video. Bearing in mind, I had no concept of the story. I didn't know, what do you mean it's Act 3 pas de deux? Like, what? How many acts are there? I didn't know anything, no context whatsoever. But for some reason, I was spellbound. It's only 3 minutes long. And I rewound. I must have done it like 8 times. And the next day I went to my teacher, Hilary Kaplan, amazing teacher in Sydney, and said to her, I have to do that. Well, I don't know what that is, but I have to do that. So I was very lucky. Within, I think it was the second month of me being in the school, the company were doing Manon, and Sylvie Guillaume was doing Manon, and I was one of the student beggars laying on there. And then an exact year later, when I joined the company, I was an actual dancing beggar with Sylvie Guillaume on stage. And then her last Manon, I was her beggar chief. That's my claim to fame there. So Manon was always etched in my mind, and I used to hound Monica about this ballet. I was obsessed. I had to do that role. I had to do it. There was just I needed to feel that final pas de deux. So then I was very thankful that I got to do that. My debut was actually with Leanne Benjamin. It was a last minute. We were just thrown together 2 days before. So I went to bed a very happy man that night.
When did your homesickness start to wane, and you felt that you were where you belonged?
I think it took a good 3 years or so.
Right.
Because a year and a bit I was in the school, and that's just a nerve-wracking time anyway for every student, because you want to get a job, it's all uncertain at that point anyway. And then when you join the company, you're the young one, you want to prove yourself. It's obviously a competitive environment in any company, because there's few roles, many people to fill them. So you feel that you're trying to find your way for much of that time. But I'd say about 3 years to suddenly go, okay, I'm actually doing this. Stop looking at your suitcase every morning. Because I would wake up every morning in that hostel. It was just literally a bed, a wardrobe with my suitcase on top. And it's the first thing you'd see when you wake up. And every morning I'd think, no one's going to judge me if I just got the tube and went to Heathrow. Like, no one's going to be angry. But actually, one of my very first ever dance teacher, Natisha Chelio, she was my jazz teacher, and she's the one who taught me how to dance.
Right.
She's the one that was jump as high as you can, spin as fast as you can, get up, you fell over, who cares? Try it again. She taught me how to dance. And so she actually at the time, bearing in mind, she'd already passed me on to teachers. She was, I've taken you where I can take you. It's time for you to go to someone else. That's huge for a teacher to do that. But it was her who said, okay, just give it 3 months. We'll have a conversation then if you feel the same way. So of course, every 3 months, give it 3 months, give it 3 months, give it 3 months.
This is probably a good opportunity to ask if there are any questions from anybody, either online. I think there's some online, but don't hesitate in the audience.
So the question from Tom is, during those reflective moments, was there a piece of music that you felt brought you back to that drive and determination to repair your body and mental challenges?
I get asked a lot, actually, what keeps you motivated or determined? And I don't have a clear answer to that. I love to do it. It's simple.
Yeah.
Like, even just now, I was across the road doing these horrific drills with the medical team. But even doesn't matter how uncomfortable you are, you know you're doing it for that purpose. So I don't wake up and think, oh, I just don't want to do it today. I've never felt that. And you can't give somebody motivation. It's got to be so internal.
Yeah.
Are some days harder? Of course. When they say, you've got to do another set, I think, I'll show you another set. But you know why you're doing it. But music has always been something that helps maybe the drive as well. It's so eclectic what I listen to. It goes from, Frank Sinatra. I would listen to him all day.
Yeah.
To The Killers. It's an indie rock band. I love them. I think part of it is because their first album was released basically as I was arriving here. So that album was my friend.
Yeah.
I just listened to it over and over again. So it's obviously nostalgia. Then some of the classics, like I obviously love even some of the music that we danced to. Like I would listen to the Nutcracker Pas de Deux, not the solo, the Sugar Plum solo, I think. But the Pas de Deux, I mean, to be on that stage with that Pas de Deux music going, you can't, nothing in life gives you that thrill. I mean, my dad raced dragsters. I mean, these things go 300 miles an hour. I don't even think that would give me the thrill of what some of those pieces do.
Yeah. That's a very powerful answer to it. Very, very powerful answer. But in terms of that motivation, has there ever been a moment where you think, maybe not? Or is the drive so strong, still so strong, that you were clear that you would do your damnedest to get back? The decision wasn't going to be yours, your body would tell you, but that you were.
Well, see, the thing is, when the Achilles snapped, it was no longer just about me. I have 3 young children. So, again, I don't come from a privileged environment. So, if I'm not going to feed my children, who is? There is nobody. It's up to me. So, it's such a dirty thing to talk about this profession as your job. People want to shoot you down for saying that. But when it comes to those moments, that's the reality. What I love doing is my job, which enables me to feed my children and keep them warm and do all those normal things, which people don't like to talk about, the normal things, but that's the reality. So in many ways, the drive was even stronger because it was no longer just about me. It was a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
But people get uncomfortable when you talk about that.
It's a very British thing. Don't talk about money and don't talk about or religion or politics. Any questions? Yes.
You're a very good tap dancer. Can you tell us when and why you took up tap?
Yeah, so my dance school that I started with was just a local dance school. It was the closest one to our house. My parents didn't know anything about dance. So again, going back to the luck and all this sort of stuff, so lucky. It was a school that just had what I now know, some of the best teachers in the world in it. And one of those teachers was my tap teacher, Glenn Wood. And I started with jazz. And in a separate studio, it was an old school. It was an old school grounds that this dance school was in. So it was a proper classroom where they just ripped everything out. You still chalkboards on the wall. They'd stuck some bars. So there was one for jazz and ballet, and then there was the dirty one for tap. It was filthy. You would come out, don't know what was on the floor, but no one ever thought to clean it. But I would sneak up to the tap studio and just look. And he'd always say, like, you want to come in? No. And he would ask me, when are you going to come and do a tap class? And I said, I'll never do tap. For some reason, I felt, I don't know, intimidated by it, or I was a very shy kid. I would hide behind my mum. I wouldn't speak to anybody. But my sister, who's 7 years older than me, she was doing a little bit of dancing at the time as well, which is why I started. And so she said, look, I'll do a tap lesson with you. So I went with her. And I think after 2 weeks, she stopped. And I carried on and loved it. I mean, I've done it since the age of 8. I wish every young dancer would do a little bit of it. I think it's so valuable.
In what way? What does it bring?
Well, we're dancers. Whether you decide to be a classical dancer or a hip-hop dancer or a musical theater, whatever it is you want to do, we're dancers. So in my dance school, the philosophy was, well, you don't go to academic school and just do maths. We give you a grounded and rounded education at a young age, and then you use all of that and decide, actually, I want to do this. And they always said that dance should be the same. So they were not trying to create the best ballet dancers and the best tap dancers and the best of everything, but they just wanted you to experience different things. So I had castanets on, and we were popping and locking everywhere, and we were doing everything. You name it. I was doing a bit of Irish, and they just got us to try a bit of everything. And I'm so grateful now when somebody like Wilden or McGregor comes in and throws something so alien at you, you go, yeah, actually, I've got something in the vault there. I can match you, or, throw something back.
I think there's another question.
More online from Angie. When you were homesick, did you consider returning to join Australian National Ballet?
Yeah, I'm pretty stubborn. So we were talking just before this, actually. When I joined the school, it was Gayleen Stock who was the director. And she used to invite us in one at a time when we were graduating, or we'd started the graduate year. And you would have to write a list of the companies you wanted to go to. And she would look down the list and go, this one, this one, this one, this one. And I wrote Royal Ballet, and I started to write a few things, and she just said, stop. She circled Royal Ballet, and she circled American Ballet Theatre. And she said, put your energy there. That's what we're doing. Thankfully, Monica had the biggest say on that. I knew how good the Australian ballet was, and still is, but I'd gone through the most challenging part of actually moving away, and I was still in the middle of that severe homesickness that I was not willing to be defeated, if that makes sense. I needed to see it out. And maybe you could say it's a luxury to think, well, Australia's always there. They might not have wanted me, who knows? Like, it's not a guarantee. But I knew I was in a very fortunate position. This was a life-changing opportunity. My family didn't fly around the world. We didn't go on international holidays. And here I was, by the time I was graduating, the school had already sent me to Spain and Italy and blah, blah, blah to do little performances. I'd seen more in those few months than generations of my entire family had ever seen. How on earth could I sit on a little pillow and go, oh, it's so hard? That was not going to happen.
But your entry to the Royal Ballet wasn't guaranteed.
No.
The fact that you'd won the Prix de Lausanne is not the guarantee of anything. So what was the process of getting in? Keep looking over it.
I have Monica to thank for so much. Like, it's no secret. I'm eternally grateful. But obviously, when you're in the graduate year, you have no idea. And I've said this to a lot of students year after year. It's wonderful to have these dreams and these aspirations to go to certain companies. Because when you're young, you see companies do things and you think, oh, I want to be there. I want to do that repertoire. Or that's where I know I'm going to thrive. But that's not always the reality. So I encourage a lot of the young dancers to actually, maybe for you, that small company, perhaps in Germany or in France, that only has 20 dancers, maybe that's where you're going to thrive for the early stage of your career. Or maybe that's where you'll end up and that's where you'll thrive. It's having that openness, I think you would say. But that's hard when you're in the graduate year because contracts are limited. You're obviously competing against your classmates, who are essentially many of the best in the world at that time. So it's an unsettling time for many young people. And you never know, obviously, what directors are looking for, what they need at that time. They might see, this person's incredible, but I just don't need that right now. Like, I don't have a place to nurture that person or whatever. I have all these other exceptional soloists that I want to develop and push. So it's very much timing and right place and all of that as well. I remember doing classes in here and, obviously Monica would come in and, please be a good day. I vaguely remember doing a tap at an RED event, and the company were also doing Les Noces at the time. And so we were sent over to understudy the corps de ballet. Les Noces, so difficult. And again, I didn't grow up with it. So 14, 7, 9, 1, 4, 4, still, go, go, go. And as school students as well, you're not at every rehearsal. It's when you're available. So I didn't know it properly. And we were in here rehearsing our own stuff. And Philip Mosley, who does the schedule, came over at 4 p.m. and said, is Stephen, which one's Stephen? Oh, so-and-so's, it was Paul Kay. was ill. So you have to go on for Paul. What? Luckily, Lenos was the last in the program. And this is where I'm so grateful to Erico Montes, who was in the same year as me and ended up joining the company as well. He has like a photographic memory. So I had from 4 p.m. until, 9 o'clock or 9:30. And I learned it from him, going over it and over and over it. So I went on with the company. And then it was a day or two after that, I was told I had a contract. Oh, that's amazing. But Paul was still ill. I had to do another show, and I think I got it all wrong. I was all over the place. It was a mess. I remember just trying to hide. I haven't signed a contract yet. But yeah, these are, I mean, I think if you ask every graduate, they'll have a tale similar to that. It's, it's this profession, you obviously just want to please and you want to get your foot in the door. And it's knowing how to do that without losing yourself in the process.
Yeah. At what point did you start to have an idea and a consciousness about the type of dancer that you are? Because presumably at the beginning, as a student and straight out of school, you've done whatever you've been told to do and such things. But there must come a point at which you then develop your own consciousness about who you are as a dancer, as an artist as well.
I think I'm still searching that. It changes all the time. And different repertoire that gets thrown at you sometimes gets thrown at you and you think, oh, I didn't maybe see myself doing that. And that's the joy. I was very fortunate, again, it's a timing thing, that when I joined the company, Monica injected so much new repertoire. So I got to learn the iconic works, but was working straight away. My start of my second season, Wilden was creating on me. It was the Spirit of Fire in homage to the Queen.
Oh, yeah.
That's so lucky, second season, to have something created on you. And so working with the likes of him, then it was the end of that year, Wilden created Chroma. I was working with Alistair Marriott, Christopher Bruce in my first season created, and I was in the core of that. It was suddenly this influx of new works. And so you're exploring who you are, how they see you, but, oh, I also want to be seen this way. And yeah, it's obviously, I'm small. I like to move quick and explosive, so I could easily have remained the jester forever and ever. I never actually got to do the jester. It was timings of when it was in the company. But again, I'm just grateful that I was being led by somebody that had the ability to see beyond the obvious all the time. And say, actually, let's see you in this, let's see you in that. And that's something that I hope many directors, future directors, will try and do and continue to do. Because it's so easy for dancers to be pigeonholed. Yeah. And the audience do it as well. They go, oh, that's so-and-so, they're going to dance it this way. And every artist needs the freedom and the opportunity to keep evolving and explore. I remember, suddenly doing a lot of the Prince roles where there are the slower adagio moments, or, working with Leslie Collier, she would, encourage me in multiple different ways. And then my good friend Federico Bonelli, who was senior to me, she would constantly just say, go and watch all the in-between things. Watch the in-between things. And then I remember Monica saying, the greatest thing you can learn is to learn how to stand still. And it's so true. I remember it was one show of Sleeping Beauty. You do the Adagio solo. And then I finally had the confidence to just do it. Just stand. And I loved it. It felt so empowering that at one point, I think I took it too far. And after one performance, not of Beauty, of a different ballet, Kevin said, I think you can move a little bit more than that. But it's so true. You find many young artists, you want to say to them, just do less, do less, do less. You don't have to be moving all the time. And I want to say that to choreographers as well.
Yes.
Do less. Just, you've got all that, now cut it in half.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, stillness and stasis as well is so important to contrast with movement.
Yeah. I mean, dance is a language.
Yeah.
And all of you can just stand opposite somebody and have a conversation. You've not said a thing. And that's the beauty of it. That's what I try and say to the younger dancers. Just stand there. Let the audience be with you. But it's hard. It's a hard thing to do.
It's hard. I'm sure this is my own little addition here, but I remember years and years ago when Elena Kojikaru first did symphonic variations, and she was standing at the corner of the stage as the other dancers were moving, and all you could do was just look at her doing nothing.
Yeah.
Of course, she was doing something,
Of course.
but she wasn't moving.
Yeah.
And it's so important. But you were seen very much at the beginning, still are, as something of a virtuoso, up in the air, turning, doing whatever. Did you enjoy that?
Oh, I love it. I've been very fortunate that my repertoire is so extreme.
Yeah.
So I remember when Alistair Marriott created a ballet called Children of Adam. And I was quite a troubled boy in that. And it was the first time I'd ever had to delve into a darker role. Most of it was all quite happy at that point. And then working with Liam Scarlett, he kept casting me in these like death, spirit, evil creatures. I kept saying, do you think that of me, or what's this? And he just kept bringing something out, which then led on to me going into miling and ballets like that, which I love it. I mean, it's virtuoso in a completely different way.
You did Sweet Violets.
Yeah.
And Frankenstein. As well.
Yeah. And in the Linbury, we did Hansel and Gretel.
Hansel and Gretel.
He created the Sandman, the doll on me.
Yeah.
The ventriloquist doll. I don't know what he ever thought of me, but I'm grateful and thankful because it enabled me to explore just a completely different side of my artistry.
Yes. And I think certainly in Scarlett's case, he was very much in the tradition following on from Macmillan, who would always look at the underside as well.
Definitely.
Always look at the underside. I will say something, I'll pass it on. I don't think I've mentioned it to anybody apart from one or two people. But I was once sitting in a review seat with the dance critic Catherine Sawley Walker. Remember Catherine? Who passed away at a very considerable age. She was dance critic of the Telegraph. Many very learned books, and suffered no fools whatsoever. And we were sitting next to each other. For whatever reason, we got on. So we were chatting away, etc. And it was Sleeping Beauty, and you were dancing Bluebird. And Bluebird, and applause. And Catherine leant over to me. She said, I started in 1939. I've never seen it better danced.
Oh, well, that's very nice.
Absolutely. Was quite extraordinary. Another break for
Can I
questions.
just ask, what are the review seats? Where are they? I have a love-hate with them.
It depends what the press department think of you.
Okay. Interesting.
So it's on the aisle in the stalls.
Oh, good to know.
Just those first two seats, and in the stall circle. But if you're bad and you're given a bad review, then you're sort of behind the column in the third row.
Okay. There's a hierarchy for everything.
No, absolutely. And it's too far to throw anything from it. I think there's an online question, definitely. Yes.
This is from Claire, and this Claire is an MSK chartered physio. So she asks, would you consider yourself similar to an Olympian who gives up so much, and those around you do too, in pursuit of your ballet performances and quest for perfection in your role?
Yeah, again, it's like this discussion, are we artists, are we athletes? And I talk about it a little bit in the film. Of course we're artists, but physically, mentally, we still have to behave like athletes. We're training 6 days a week. The difference is with the Olympians, they have their 4-year cycle and they have their events in between, but it's always, okay, we peak for that. And then we do them, and everything's geared towards peaking for that moment. We peak, and then your career, you want to just keep peaking, and that's impossible. It's physically, mentally, it's impossible. So it's very different. The strain on those around you doesn't end, because if it's the day before a big show and my children are begging me to go to the playground, of course, all I want to do is take them to the playground. But your head then goes, oh, hang on. That's not a good idea. I've got some swelling. I need to do this, I need to do that. It's always, I don't want to say it's a cloud, but there's always this thing hovering above you, making you question every choice. And I feel upset at times about that, but the flip side of so many other wonderful things that come from it are extraordinary. To have my children, I did Romeo and Juliet a few weeks ago, and they were all in the wings watching it, and they love it. Like, they're enthralled by it. I don't think any of them want to pursue it, but they're in this environment that's just so otherworldly. And they are getting to an age now that they understand it. They understand that, oh, maybe daddy's not going to walk up the hill at Richmond Park and roll down with me and do that because he has a show tomorrow, or but that still weighs heavily on me. And my parents in Australia, my mum never recovered from me, that whole situation of the competition and moving here. If we called tomorrow and said, we're moving back, I know she'd genuinely be finally happy. She loves everything. Couldn't be prouder. I think everybody in the local supermarket knows every single detail about everything that I've ever done. But I think now, how would I feel if one of my children just... I was 17. Yeah. I'm 39 now. I've never lived an adult day of my life in Australia. So that weighs heavily with me. But she would sit here and say, oh, don't be stupid.
That's mother's for you. We have any? Yes, and then we'll do.
Actually, what you said brings me to the question, is have you given thought to life after ballet?
Yeah, I mean, I get asked this. Journalists love to ask this. It's like they're always obsessed with it. Like, do you want me to stop? Like, are you hinting at something? I mean, it's inevitable. I'm not going to perform Rhapsody when I'm 70 years old. Although I am working with this amazing surgeon at Imperial College who's coming up with artificial everything. So, you know, watch this space. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not ready to fully stop. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to be involved with the profession. I love it. It's transformed my life. That's why I wanted to do the extra studies. That's why I've hounded all these people to try and learn as much as I can. Like everything, there are things that we constantly need to keep improving and evolving. And I want to make sure that this art form continues to flourish. We have the most beautiful platform to communicate with people. We just have to make sure that every future generation is exposed to it and that we provide them with the right exposure, creating works that still excite people, give them that thrill of what everybody must have experienced the night of Romeo and Juliet opening. And you know, I've been lucky to experience it myself. The opening night of Chroma was extraordinary. The response, the opening night when the curtain went up on Winter's Tale, Act 2, I was laying on the tree and the curtain went up and you could feel this, what are we seeing? I'm so lucky that I've been part of our version of those experiences. And we have to make sure that that keeps happening. And I think that comes back to the conversation of giving artists the freedom to make mistakes. Obviously, the economic situation of the whole world makes it harder and harder to risk new things, new productions. And so I feel like there's just an insane amount of pressure on every single new piece that has to be perfect. And we know that every new piece was not perfect in the early years. It was, okay, that one didn't work, but it wasn't all a disaster. Why don't we take a bit of that, keep that for later? You can see how each choreographer was able to develop and keep finding their voice. So I would hope that we can keep enabling that to happen as well. But yeah, I obviously want to be part of this profession moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Stephen, you obviously have a great repository of knowledge. And you keep talking about talking to your students. And is that something you want to do, pass on knowledge to other dancers?
I think that's the dancer's mentality. That's in the DNA of being a dancer. You know, when you get to go into the studio with somebody, you know, like Monica, like Leslie Collier, there's this selflessness. They're there because they want to support you to be the best you can possibly be right now in this situation, whatever it is that you're dealing with. And they want to pass on maybe something they'd heard, a bit of advice they'd been given, something they'd tried themselves and it didn't work, but hey, it might work for you. That's the beauty of it. It's something that it has to be verbally passed on. You can't learn it on a teacher's course or read a textbook. That's just not how it happens. You can learn some basic foundations, but to have it come out of the mouths of people that have had to stand on the middle of that stage and feel the ultimate highs, feel the disasters. You know, we've all done shows that you just think, I want to disappear forever and ever. But that's all of us in all our jobs. You have those days. And that, I think, is being part of being the dance community, to be able to constantly pass that on.
Any, yes. All the way over there.
Questions are coming fast and furious online too. So.
Good.
Hi, you don't have to answer this if you don't want. So when you talk about the surgeons, do they like having injury? You know, you're not a normal injury. Do they take extra care and get it very involved?
So we're very lucky that we have a wonderful relationship with, it's called the Fortius Clinic. And it was created by a team of surgeons who have basically specialized on elite athletes their entire careers. So my surgeon who did my Achilles works with, I don't know anything about football, but every footballer that you could name, he's operated on. He flies to do all the NBA stars. He's used to having his surgeries filmed because of insurance purposes, because that player is worth, you know, £100 million or whatever. So I unfortunately don't come with that price tag. I would love to. But the joy is that every single time you lay there and they put you under, you know that you're in the best possible hands you could be in. But it's been interesting because I mean, I'm not saying it's good that we've had lots of injuries. It's part of every dancer's journey. But because we are using the same surgeons, they are also learning. So, you know, if sometimes you'd go to a surgeon and they'll say, oh, that's easy, we'll just fuse this together. But the dancer would never get on point again. You know, those conversations don't happen anymore. My surgeons, they come, they watch us rehearse, they watch you in the gym. They now have dancers from all over the world coming to them. They're learning as well. So it's guiding the way they operate as well, which is great for the future generations. I mean, the kids who are starting their journeys now, I'm so excited for them because it'll be endless what will be able to be done to them to keep them going for such a long time.
Shall we have one more question and then?
Yep, and then there's some more. Okay, so this comes from Fiona. Can I take you back some years, perhaps, to a time when you were younger and life was more carefree? Specific to the year 2009, when Johann Coburg created Les Lutins on you. How was the creation process, and how was performing and interacting on stage with violinist Charlie Stem? Also, how was the experience of touring this ballet to Cuba, St. Petersburg, and Denmark?
Yeah, so Les Lutins, I don't know if any of you remember it, but it was a trio. So it was created for myself, Sergei Polunin, and Alina Kochikaru. And it was so much fun. It was created originally for one of the original draft works that was in the old Linbury. And when we first started to create, I felt he was just trying to create the most difficult thing on the planet to test us. But then I quickly realized, actually, this is a little gem. So it was always a joy to perform. And then we went on tour to Cuba, but I was one of the few that got swine flu. So I didn't get to perform it. I was quarantined in the house. Yeah, that was not a fun trip. But then I was actually, yeah, we performed it in St. Petersburg. And then I actually went and performed at the Bolshoi with Zaharova. She had an evening dedicated to her, and she loved Les Lutins. She wanted to dance it. So I went and danced it with her on the Bolshoi stage. And that was amazing. I mean, the stage is huge. And then, yeah, we performed it many times in Denmark and all over, really.
So that leads me on to another question, which, are there any roles which are really very dear to you? Which would be the last you'll take with you to your castaway island?
Romeo for me is one. You know, it was my first full length. I did it with Alina Kochikaru as my first Juliet. We had about 5 days to put it together. It was a last minute situation. It's a lovely story, actually. I remember in those 5 days, one of them was over a weekend. So the company weren't rehearsing on the Sunday. but I had to learn everything. I had to learn, I'd never done proper pas de deux before, sword fights, like nothing. And I was very lucky. I went in on Sunday alone, because there's no pianist, there's nothing, there's no set rehearsals. Going through it, I was in the Ashton studio, and the lift door opened and Monica appeared. And I think she knew I would be there. And Monica went through the whole ballet, every character. He did the harlots, he did the everything. We did every single, the friar, everything. And just went through it with me. That's what good director has the instinct. There was no discussion. It was not planned that we would meet and do that. So Romeo, and then I've been fortunate. I've had, I think it's 11 or 12 different Juliets now. And that's beautiful because every single one brings out something different. And we've performed it all over the world. And it's never the same. That's the beauty of it. And then Miling was a ballet that I remember when Kevin said, I want you to do Miling. At first I went, really? It was not a ballet that I was familiar with because the company had only really done it once, I think. So I did Bratfish. Yeah. That was really the first time they'd done it in a long time. And of course, I saw it as a far more mature role, a really meaty, like almost your last days in the company role. And when he said he wanted me to do it, I felt so young. I thought, oof, is this too soon? But again, I was lucky that that was the first time I was put with Leanne Benjamin as my coach. And so I danced with her. She'd been this great force of, you know, going to me from the day I joined the company. I'd never met her before. She just came up to me and she was like, you're Australian, aren't you? And she said, never lose your fifth in a double tour, otherwise it's all over. And put your arm up when you're doing arabesque at the bar, because you'll be thankful when you start partnering. Literally just said it to me. And so still to this day, I have my arm up in arabesque and I'm like, oh, if I lose my fifth, it's over. Anyway, so then that was her first time coaching properly. And I was her couple, like the couple she was put with. And I loved it. She didn't let me get away with anything. Every single thing I did, she went, what are you trying to say there? And I'd say it and she went, well, you failed there. I didn't get that at all. And it was just so great. It was so wonderful. It was such a brilliant process to have that real honesty. You know, there was no, oh yeah, it looks great. And you know that she's in the dressing room going, oof, they look horrific. You know, if she said, you know what, you're in a good place right now, you thought, okay, we've made progress, keep going. And so I've continued working with her. Her and Leslie, because Leslie started to not coach every ballet. So actually Miling was really the big first ballet I'd done without Leslie coaching me. So I was nervous going into that situation. You get very close to your coach. And I always called Leslie my ballet mom. And so yeah, anyway, Miling is also a ballet that I'll hold on to. I'm always very proud that I was part of the original Chroma. I just think that was such a genius move for Monica to have done that at that time, and that will stand the test of time, that ballet. That will stay. That will be a ballet that remains. I know it. I know it. It'll remain. It's one of those.
When you become
pieces.
a company director, it's definitely going to be on your,
of course,
your rep.
Of course, of course. And then, you know, you can't deny the works of Wilden. He's created so much fun stuff on me. You know, to have The Spirit of Fire done on me at a young age was such a platform for me. And then The Mad Hatter, for him to go completely outside the box was a joy. And I love dancing. I've danced that. You'll have to wheel me out and I'll still try and do it. And then even Winter's Tale, what he created for Sarah and I, felt very special for Sarah and I. It felt like in a way, a bit of a celebration of the trust we'd built together for all those years. And still, we're lucky that we get to keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you're very much, when you join the company, you're still with the company. Has that been really important for you to be with one company and to grow within that company, rather than some dancers take a different view about how their careers should develop? But you've been a stayer.
I think it's obviously up to the individual if they feel that they're being fed. And I wouldn't have been able to consume everything that I've been fed. I've danced every single role a dancer could want to dance of the Royal Ballet repertoire. And had multiple new works as well. I didn't feel there was a point that I thought, I need to move on from here. And to be honest, if that was happening, I think the likes of Monica or Kevin would have said it themselves. It's time for you to go explore or do something. And they've both been very open always about me going off and doing, a guest performance with this company or that company. And you get a taste then of, would I want to go there? Or, I've been lucky to perform with the Bolshoi a few times, and it's always been an extraordinary experience, but I was not in a rush to go move to Moscow. It was the same. I've been able to perform with ABT, and I absolutely loved that. I want to be here.
Coming into the final minutes, are there any burning questions from anyone? Please don't hesitate. This is your last opportunity. One over here. Yes.
There's one more here online.
And there's one online.
Hello. Are you ever tempted to create more tap work like Chardin's?
Yeah, every year I'm lucky that I get to put a program together in Denmark every summer. It was actually started by Johan Koborg and an opera singer. And Johan got very busy with other projects, so asked if I wanted to take it on. So for the last 10 years, every summer, I curate a program, and it's all outdoor performances. And it's beautiful. It's a little bit of opera, a little bit of dance, live music. We have a violinist and a pianist. And it's very intimate. Sometimes it's in a courtyard of a palace. The next is on the beach, where literally, if I jumped off the back of the stage, I would be in the water. We get boats stopping and watching the show. Every setting is different, but it's all outdoors. So I create, different numbers every year for that. I actually had Anna Rose O'Sullivan singing last summer. She has a beautiful voice, if you don't know. So we worked with Arlene Phillips on that. So she sung Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It was beautiful.
Lovely. There's one last online. Somebody's been very patient, I know, online.
Well, there were actually 3, but 2 have been answered. Natalie's and Tom's have been answered. Martha asks, and I think this is kind of nice, what does your public mean to you?
What does the public?
Public mean to you?
It's everything. That's ultimately why you do it. I think I mention it in the film, but my goal is always that at least one person in the audience walks away feeling that their life's been touched in some way. I remember coming through stage door. It was a matinee performance. I think it was The Sleeping Beauty. And if I remember correctly, it wasn't a show that I thought. It was one of those that I thought, just tomorrow's another day. And I came out of the stage door, and this young girl was stood there, and she just was like this. And I said, "Did you enjoy it?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "Oh, which bit?" You know, usually they like the lilac fairy or obviously Aurora. And she just said, "All of it." And her face was just beaming. And I suddenly went, that pirouette doesn't really matter anymore. Like, look, job done. She's now walked away. She'll never forget that whole performance. It's not about the silly technical things that we get hung up about every single time. And we all do it in all professions, all walks of life. But the public means everything. You can, again, you can smell, you can sniff what mood the public are in. The second the curtain goes up, you get a sense of it straight away.
Well, that's a perfect point at which to end. Thank you very much
Thank you.
indeed. It's been a great evening.
I think that was the most fascinating, insightful, and thank you for sharing, Stephen. You're so open and just so honest about everything. And I think we've all known you through the characters you've danced, but now we know you that bit better, and we're all the richer for it. Thank you for coming back again and again. And I hope we don't have to welcome you back a third time. But thank you for coming, and thank you, Gerald. It was wonderful. And thanks to all of you, both online and here, for being here tonight. And we'll see you for the next one.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. That was nice and easy.